Sportscast presents Hoops Talk, hosted by Alabama basketball legend Erwin Dudley and sportscast contributor Ryan Christa. All basketball, from college basketball to the NBA. Listen to Sportscast Hoops Talk on digital radio, on the app, on your smart speaker, on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch.tv, and Facebook. Sportscast Hoops Talk. Rhythm, debate, layup, and dunk. Sports Talk, Hoops Talk.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Hoops Talk, presented by the Sportscast. Today is Monday, July 25th, 2022. And if you haven't, follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. You name it, we got it. Tonight, I'm here with my usual co-host, Erwin Dudley. How are you today, Erwin?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to be here.
All right. Yes, same here. We reached, we kind of talked about last week, kind of this weird summer vibe. We've got college basketball way in the distance, kind of in the middle ground there. NBA, just finished up, their season, draft, summer leagues, free agency. We have a couple, intriguing, off-season storylines are kind of still dangling. And that's, that big one, that's where's Kevin Durant going to land? A new team has emerged, the Boston Celtics, are into the conversation, joining the Heat, the Suns, and the Raptors, So really it's a 4-team race to see who's going to end up with Kevin Durant. Hearing the reports that, what were your first reactions to that, Erwin?
I mean, a lot of there's a lot of teams. A few potential teams that you kind of expect that those teams will be championship contenders per se. Look at like Phoenix. Phoenix was one of them. Now you have the Celtics. I mean, you had championship contending. They won championship contending. They had also that was a but for the city, I mean, again, Brown, which is well, I mean, you would rather get and not Tatum. Like Tatum is even though Tatum hadn't him too in the finals, but look at him, he has a higher Brown, and he's just Jaylen Brown is suspendable. They definitely will have to give away some picks, but Kevin Durant is, you're gonna have to you have to lose a lot to give up a big time superstar like Kevin Durant, and he has a lot of money left on, so you got to have to compensate for all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what helps, the Celtics being able to do that, they acquired, Malcolm Brogdon in the, offseason too. So that's another wing player. So, if they want to get rid of, Jaylen Brown, we could see him move. So I think you take a look at what the Nets are kind of looking for. They're looking for an all-star. Not many times you can, yeah. I think, right now the Celtics the only team that's probably really offering him an all-star in return for Kevin Durant, other than, most teams are probably offering, pieces along with picks. Jaylen Brown is more than a piece. He's he's expendable to the Celtics, but he's he could be a foundational piece for a lot of franchises, especially if the Nets are, totally going to gut this roster and rebuild off of. That's a player I think, they could at least build off of that. So, it'll be interesting to see. It sounds like it's just kind of talking, and I think the Nets are slow playing. Hopefully, I think another thing, and they just the longer they wait, and say we try to find a trade partner, but we couldn't, and you're gonna have to be stuck playing with us. So, I ultimately, if I was a betting man, that's where I would think that he was still gonna end up with, Brooklyn here at the end of the day. Um, I
Yeah,
mean, anybody,
I mean, I think that he's. I don't think he was trying to. They're really he asked for a trade. They're trying to get rid of. Um, they don't want to, but Kevin Durant and his we want to trade out of here, and all the chaos and everything organization. And so you want. You don't have the whole situation of now. I don't think that'll be an issue with Kyrie, but again, it was just something. The whole Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is he should be in. You still don't know what you're going to get out of him. And again, he how since he last played. So you have to look at all that stuff. The way he's looking at okay, my time to get out now because if I wait, and he's looking at his window of opportunity. I mean, KD is still, but again, he's still, I want to win, and the way they're booking in this organization has been going, things that have been happening in their organization. He look at them as a championship winning or a championship.
yeah, absolutely. Brooklyn is definitely they're an emotional roller coaster as an organization. Always trying for that quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
To try.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. If any breaking news happens, we'll let you know on the sportscast for sure. So moving on, to another player. Coming near and dear to your heart. We'll talk a little. I know you're an Alabama alumni. I got a chance. I think it was a 2018 NCAA tournament to go to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to watch. Alabama. Play, as a 8 or 9 seed. I was in that game, and
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was against Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, they end up winning, and I watched them, but I really got to see, Colin Sexton up front, in person, he's kind of the guy. I think when I know Avery Johnson's tenure at Alabama. Wasn't always cracked up, but could have been. But he was, I think, really the first major recruit, and it's kind of gone on to Nate Oates, but kind of put Alabama basketball back on the map, So, him, but I really thought, this guy is a star, I mean, big, strong, athletic, and I think ended up being like the 5th or 6th pick, and. In a draft. So he's sitting here right now, and he is right now a restricted free agent. For those who don't know, that means basically, he's a free agent, but he's kind of got rights back to Cleveland in the sense of whatever offer he gets, Cleveland can match. This is we're getting on almost 3-4 weeks on the free agency. And he's kind of that big fish still out there. This is a guy who. I think could get you, close to 20 points a game, close to 10 assists a game, So it's very interesting that he's kind of out there, dangling out there, and really there's no takers. What's your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. yeah, but this, at this way, um, for the years out for injury, and so that's some teams they look at injuries, especially when it comes from dealing with a superstar like say came off his Achilles. Teams look at it differently than when they would look at Colin Kevin Durant as a superstar. Sexton is teams he's again they're taking that time. I know we talked about possibly him Dallas and kind of being the side kick a little bit, which really wouldn't be a bad. I think that he could come in and fill in the spot for Brunson. Even if he went there, but again, it kind of depends on if whoever offers him, if Cleveland, he had a 3-year, 40 Cleveland, so I don't know if he's so. If he hadn't signed, maybe he's waiting on some other people. The longer, I don't know. The longer he money could potentially go up. At the kid Garland. I mean, this year, and I think that they're looking at him as Brighton, coming superstar, being out this past season. They're looking at Garland again. Brighton star. He's one of those kids. With Cleveland, and they got him. So they're gonna keep him, and they offer. Colin maybe thinks that. I definitely think, even though he's coming off injury, it's all about they're looking for a guard like him. But I think he will fit in Dallas.
Absolutely. It's funny, Erwin, when free agency started, and it's kind of evident that Jalen Brunson was out the door to New York. I was like, I go to Twitter and I put Colin Sexton Mavs. I was like, and it seemed like it was going to happen, and then it just kind of fizzled out. I spent, especially when Goran Dragic signed, with Chicago, I was like, okay, this is where they're going to pony it, but it just kind of just died. There's really no. Like you said, he's got this offer from Cleveland, it's lower than he wants. But you got to look at Cleveland, they got Darius Garland, but they also just drafted, Evan Mobley, and they have Jared Allen. These are guys that I think they're going to be like, okay, these are max guys that you got to be paying for years in advance. And it's almost that Colin Sexton is kind of this odd man out of, getting that big max contract. Not saying he's not those, it's kind of like you said, coming off the injury, he's got the potential. Maybe he takes a 1-year deal somewhere and proves, with mega money for 1 year, and then proves himself, bets on himself that way, and, gets that big contract he wants next year, So, I'd love for him to sign 1 year Dallas to see how that goes, and I look at Dallas's roster, I see, I think we're just lacking that Robin. Obviously, we got our Batman, and Luka, and we got, Dinwiddie and Hardaway. We got a lot of pieces, but I don't know if there's, what Brunson was that go-to secondary scorer. If Luka's having an off game, he can go off and give you that win. I don't see anybody on this roster, Yeah, Dinwiddie, Hardaway can get hot once in a while, but they're not going to give it to you that steady outpouring of consistency every night, and that's that kind of worries me going this year. Hopefully we get enough consistent, but we added the big man, but Christian Wood, but I was like, we just don't have that secondary, consistent player, that Sexton could be. And I think the fan base is longing for, to fill in Brunson's role. So we'll kind of keep our eye out, where, he'll go, or if he just eventually just says, I'll go back to Cleveland and whatever, deal they're offering him. Other news notes, Monty Williams, coach of the Suns, receives a contract extension, obviously well due, coach of the year.
Well,
Yeah. As much, I think, I'm kind of happy to see the band get back together, in Phoenix, Chris Paul is back, again, they re-signed Ayton, Booker, they're going to give you, keep this train going on as long as possible, and, and see what happens, when, if they, end up being able to get Kevin Durant. But I think, the culture that Monty Williams has, created, has definitely, been a, big advantage for Phoenix, and the success, that they've had the last couple of years, You a big Monty Williams fan?
I am. I know what I like what what he stands for. Brings a different type of edge to to the game of basketball than a lot of coaches do, and one more deserving than him. Like you said, what he stands for, respect him. They look up to him. They respond. They play hard for him. If you look at what since the time that he's been in a outstanding job, and so that's what he does.
Absolutely, and I think they had success last year and the year before, obviously going to the finals, but I think they really built that about 3 years ago when up in the bubble. They go to the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Is this team that literally no chance of going to into the playoffs, but I think they end up going 8-0 in the bubble. It just kind of fed that culture he built that year, kind of. And then they bring in a Chris Paul, kind of brought him over the top, So I think that's just a perfect pair, Monty Williams, Chris Paul. Years and years ago, I would probably say 2009 or 10, I was visiting a friend of mine who was working in the Trailblazers organization. And the first person he introduced me was to Monty Williams. And I was like, wow, is everybody as nice in the NBA as this guy is? The guy could have been more genuine and nice, and really, I still will never forget. Every time I see him, like, wow, this guy is superstar human being, and obviously tragedy is, in the middle, tragedy, losing his wife in a car accident, several years ago, there's a lot of things that I think shaped, who he is as a coach today, and obviously, I know, as a Mavericks fan, I will, I was happy we got over top of him last year, but again, definitely deserving of the coach of the year and a contract extension, Any other news and notes in the NBA, you want to hit
on? I think that's it. Other than the James Harden, him taking less money to to bring some more talent, which I think is a good deal for him. And I think that I think on the last week, getting back to himself for trying to get over those hamstring issues that he's hope that he comes in the training this year. You stay prepared and keep your body. I think it'll help you in the long run for how he does it. It's always been to talk about into training camp. You kind of work yourself. Just people don't think it takes a toll on your body, but it really does. Can keep your body in shape and kind of doing what you got to do. Whatever. I mean, you got money to play the game of basketball. I understand that you have a life, your mainstream of of doing the things that you've been able to do in life. The game of basketball that you play. LeBron James. Body, and it really does show on the court. I mean, he's going in the year 20, and he's had injuries, but again, he really invests in his body. He's in consistent shape year round. So for more than that from a superstar, I mean, injury, there's nothing you can do about that. But your body in shape and as an athlete, I mean, it's really showing how disciplined you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely intrigued to see, what James Harden we see this year. I mean, the guy's not playing for free here. He's still playing for $34 million.
Yeah, of course.
He didn't take that long-term contract to kind of hamstrings the franchise. So he took a shorter, contract. Obviously could have been probably paid closer to $40 million. So, but good for him on that. So we'll see what kind of shape he keeps himself in the off season. I mean, Erwin knows this. What type of discipline needs to keep going. As a former professional basketball player himself. Not easy. That grind. I think what we see on TV. We think is easy to go in, day out. I mean, NBA players, they got a lot of perks and advantages. Travel isn't that hard. In the sense of but it wears on you for 82 games. Body doesn't necessarily made to do that. I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we dog James Harden because we know how good James Harden can be, and it's, and to see him, whenever we see a player kind of take that nosedive, in that career, where his numbers just kind of just dip, and I think there's so much talk, all season long we hear about that trade. Eventually did happen for Simmons for Harden. Is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen? And all of a sudden, we thought this was gonna put the Sixers over the top, and but we'll see. Him and Embiid, playing for a whole year together. Finding that balance. And bringing in a player like a PJ Tucker to add some toughness to this team. Along with I think a budding superstar in Tyrese Maxey, to play along with James Harden. And, and then you still have Tobias Harris, who's, they're paying him a lot of money. So you expect, him to ball out every game, which isn't always the case, but, his potential. So the Sixers are definitely.
He's been playing better. Been playing better.
I thought sometimes I feel like he does get a bad rap because if you I definitely think he was getting a bad rap in the playoffs. It seemed like he's he does I mean he's not the superstar player, but he's definitely a good role player for the Sixers organization. So we'll keep an eye at where James Harden is going into this next year. Still a lot of questions we'll try to answer them. As we get closer, throughout the off season, as topics come up, and as we get closer to college basketball season, we'll start previewing, teams, there, so, we're getting really close to America's favorite pastime, and that's, football season, whether it be college or NFL, the Sportscast will keep you updated on all the gridiron action. Erwin, any closing thoughts before we're done here tonight?
No, I don't have anything. I do not.
All right, everybody. Again, thanks for joining us here on Hoops Talk. And again, if any breaking news happens in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, we'll keep you updated. Again, follow us on all our social media platforms. Again, if you download us on Apple Podcasts, please leave your ratings and your review. And until next time, Erwin, we'll catch you later. All right. Good night.
Guys, later. Good night.
Hey.